information.
Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. My name is Anthony Sie, the host of the Hour of Politics. This is the late night edition of the Hour of Politics. I got some of Liberia's best minds, best energetic young men seated, ready. This is like Jerome Gilman would say, a rumble in the jumble of politics this evening, this night. Wherever you are, welcome. Of course, this is Focus on Liberia. We are broadcasting from our headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. Our goals has always been to educate, to elevate, and promote all things Liberia. The topic today is always political. I must say is political and it's always political here at Focus on Liberia, especially with me on the Hour of Politics. The Cummings trial and presidential elections 2023. How? Well, the Cummings trial will have political implication. Either it nails Cummings or he manages to survive and pick up a narrative and use it to his advantage. Or President Weah will benefit bigly if he uses the courts, if he uses all the maneuvering tactics politically, and he can benefit. Or it may affect Waka indirectly somehow if it's paid over and if he's put back in put into the court, he too might have his hands caught off in something that he may not actually want. As for Tier 1, while the three guys are caught up in the midst of this case, he might be picking up some momentum. Is he going to do it? Is he going to benefit? If anybody is going to benefit, it's a Weah, it's a Cummings, it's a Bwaka. The politics is here and welcome. Seated and ready to roll is James Jensen. Mr. Jensen is the host of 2A Radio. Mr. James Jensen, welcome.
Thank you so much, Anthony. And
Yes, Anthony.
as you said, this is James N. Jensen.
Mm-hmm.
Jensen is a graduate from the University of Liberia, Louis Arthur Graham School of Law, the Pennsylvania State University, the Law School. I'm also the former strategic planning and policy advisor to the then Auditor General of Liberia, John Malou, Chief Communication Officer, General Auditing Commission, and the former Press and Public Affairs Director at the House of Representatives. Tonight, as the topic goes, it's an interesting one, and I'm here to see what sense do we all make on the Cummings trial and the 2023 general and presidential elections. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, James, for coming. Also here is Mr. Morris Momolu Dukle. He is the Vice Chairman for Operation COP Diaspora, I believe. Mr. Dukle, welcome to the Hour of Politics.
Thank you, Mr. C, and good evening to all these wonderful gentlemen on here. It's good to be here again because an interesting story with wonderful Liberians from all backgrounds. I'm very thrilled to be here, and it will be a fascinating night. Thank you.
All right. Also is a man known as Prince Sharif. We are bearing an unapologetic, unrelenting, unabashed sedition, seated, dressed as a sedition and ready to roll. Welcome, Mr. Sharif. It's good to have you.
Thank you so much, Mr. C, for giving us the opportunity to be on your platform. And let me say hello to our distinguished discussant, panelists, however they are, or guests. I want to say hi to all of you. It is always a privilege for us to be, in this kind of gathering where we can, intellectually, cross the as somebody will say, because this time people can cross R now and also dot the T. But I just want to add some humor into our discussion. But we are here to discuss the issues that matter in Liberia, and I believe that this is the best way. Let us continue to talk, talk, and talk, and never must we revert, to go into the butches of Cample, Belefasama, and etc. And to our audience, we want to say thank you for joining us. It promises to be very, very interesting tonight. We are going to have a very civil discussion. And I want to disappoint people who come here and think that we are coming here to share blow. Let me disappoint you to say that we are here to share ideas. We are here so that we can discuss what matters for the forward march of Liberia. So, those of you who come in here to hear Marcos and negativity, I'm sorry. Find another platform. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarity there. You couldn't be point on, and that we do not do here. Steve Bullet is also here. He is a host at SKTV. Mr. Bullet, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. CA. Thanks to Focus on Liberia for the invite. It's an honor to be here. I'd like to thank the rest of the panelists also for being here. As always, I believe that the Liberian people are the most important people on earth, considering we've left our busy schedules and other agendas to be here to talk about Liberia and the Liberian people. But most importantly, I believe that the Liberian women are the most beautiful women, and I challenge any one of these gentlemen on here to dispute that fact. You will be in legal trouble and social trouble and economic trouble. So that being said, I want to say thank you, and we look forward to the conversation tonight. Thank you so much.
Also here and seated is a dear friend and partner here at Focus on Liberia, Mr. George Cannon Tule. He is from our program On Point. Mr. Tule, it's good to have you, brother.
Yeah, Anthony, it's nice being here this evening. I know it's going to be an exciting moment, time of cross fertilization of ideas and disagreements also. And but one thing I know is that in the foremost of every mind here is the importance of Liberia. And um, like you said, I'm not a stranger to this platform, so I won't say much. Uh, let's go with the show. Time is already far spent.
That is so true. Talking about, let's go to the show. We will now roll in our opening question here, gentlemen, to get started. And this time we're going to start with Mr. Tule. Mr. Tule, the opening question, and folks, if you are given the opportunity to speak, stick within 2 minutes so that we can cover more grounds. Opening question here reads, Cummings, Weah, Boaka, and Tiawan, if presidential elections were held today, which two contestants will make it to the second round, and who would there win in the runoff?
I would say, because of time, I'll be fast. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, it's already said. It's Joe Buckeye and George Weah that are going to the second round. And because of the performance of the Weah-led administration, we saw that for two election cycles, um, like the group, the age bracket, 18 to 36, where Weah's mainstay, all right, especially within the metro areas in Liberia, quote unquote metro areas. But we saw the disaffection because of the lack of delivery. And the lack of delivery was based upon the lack of planning. They say proper planning prevents poor performance. And one of the reasons why this government continues to suffer is because they haven't been able to properly plan. And another thing also, again, is the idea of servant leadership is missing. There's a disconnect. The leader doesn't feel, that he owes the people anything, right? So he doesn't speak to them on a regular basis. He doesn't enumerate his plans because he doesn't have any political ideology. So I won't go further with that. But what I'm saying is, if we went into a second round, obviously Joseph Boakai would. So you see all the political machinations that are going on right now is because they have seen. Let me say this also. Elections are set before we reach election cycle, before we reach the day of elections in Liberia. Uh, most campaigning activities do not actually sway voters. The voters will already predetermine who they're going to vote for. Campaigning is just fanfare, pomp and pageantry, pomp and circumstance that really doesn't really sway the voters. But I would say this coming election, about two-thirds are already set, and about a third needs to be, convinced otherwise. So
Okay.
I'm saying here that we are going to go. I'm a supporter of Joseph Boakai unabashedly. We're going to go into the second round with George Weah and we'll defeat George Weah.
Thank you so much. That will bring us to Mr. Steve Boley. If election were held today, for now we know at least four men who clearly are running. That's Weah, the Cummings, the Boakai, and Tiawan. Who you think will be the two-person to make it to the second round and then will ultimately win to get the presidency?
Well, that's an interesting but tricky question. I'd like to make a disclaimer. I'm not sure of other people on the platform, but I'm part of no political party in Liberia, and I support no one as of today, as far as I'm concerned. But sticking with your question, and based on some of the data, some of the happenings that we've seen so far since the 2017 election, and most recently informing us based on a senatorial election in 2020,
Right.
I would say it would either be Cummings or Tiawan Gonglo in the second round, and more likely so because of this culture or tradition of the incumbent making it up to the second round or being one of the strongholds or whatever you want to term it. I would say the CDC would also go to the second round. And it's unfortunate to say, but these are facts that we must state. Very unfortunate. In other countries, in other places, it would have been a quite different story. We could have looked towards having two different new people emerging. And I say this to say, as opposed to what Mr. Tule has stated here earlier on, there are no facts, there are no evidence that support his claims that former Vice President Joseph Yuma Boakai even stands a chance of running the presidential elections, considering there are a lot of factors that are against him. Now, it's one thing for us to be realistic about things. It's another thing for us to think and believe that, because 2017 election, he came second, that means automatically he will be promoted into the second round comes 2023. The feed has changed, the dynamic has changed, and there are a lot of factors, again, playing against the Unity Party and Vice President Joseph Yuma Boakai. As of most recent, they are in court. Part of the reason they're in court, but just to land on this point, part of the reason they're in court, which could more likely so prevent the Unity Party from even appearing on the ballot should the Supreme Court hold constant to our laws and our rules and regulations of the country that this group of people signed on to certain things, they left illegally, but yet they want to still represent themselves. So I believe it's a huge myth, and I believe the Unity Party is done, and we should look into a different direction.
All right, gentlemen, when we get to the second question, then there will be back and forth. But for now, let go with the floor on the opening. Mr. Sherry, I'm sure you understood the question.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you. It is very clear, judging from the two previous speakers, that you cannot rule out the victory of the CDC-led government. And the reasons are very simple. You asked the question whether the CDC government will be going in second round with the names that you have called. I do not want to dignify these names, and the reason for which I don't want to dignify these names is because The Liberian people are seeing how destructive these guys are, and they are becoming a nuisance in our political, sphere. They are becoming a threat to democracy. They are becoming a threat to peace and security. So I am very sure that before that time, we might have other names, but it is a resounding yes to
Even tier
say,
one is a threat, if I may.
my brother, the names that you are called, I am saying that all of those that you have called, I think they are threat to our democracy. They are
Wow.
threat to our peace. So it is very clear that the CDC-led government is going to take a one-round victory.
Mhm.
And when you look at the indications, my brother C and to my fellow discussants, they are very, very clear to the extent that even one who is visually impaired uh, can determine and can deduce that yes, indeed, the victory of CDC is very clear. Uh, let us look at the developmental mantra of this particular government. My brother CA, nobody needs to tell you that since this government took over, despite of the challenges we are faced with economically, all of us know that there is a serious donor fatigue. But this government has been very, very strong enough in amalgamating those little resources within taxes, encouraging Liberians, and all of the projects that you are seeing going on. It is affecting the lives of people that are far away from the usual political scene. You know, the political scene is Maserado. Everything is Maserado. But as we speak, my brother CA, there are people who are in Bokonjire, even in the village that you are from. There are people who are as far as in Jenewene or beyond the natural uh, scope of Liberia that are feeling the impact of this particular government. So it is clear that the victory of CDC is a one-one victory, and we will not be able to equate it to anybody that you've just called or to
Wow.
try to put anybody in the ring with us.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. He said something there, but we'll wait for the fire round for us to push back on these sections. Let us come to Mr. Jason here. Quickly, we have 4 men that we know for a fact will be running. Of the 4, the 2 that will make it to the second round. And from that second round, who will come out and what will be your reason for saying so, if you can? You are muted, Brother James. Go ahead. You go now.
I think the question should be who is to win elections in Liberia,
Okay.
particularly so the presidency. And I think the hypothetical question, I wouldn't want to address that. I would want to address who should be president of Liberia comes 2023.
Okay.
If you ask me that question, I would think that anyone who is a citizen of Liberia should be president of Liberia. Anyone who has demonstrated uh, their capability of running a government or running credible institution, that person should be a president. Anyone who loves to respect the laws of the land should be president. Having said that, I will believe that the 2020 election will be challenging and that there are people who may not contest the election if they are challenged. And one of such person may be George Weah. George Weah has a questionable issue, and as a lawyer, I'm aware that George Weah took on different nationality. And as far as the laws of Liberia stands, I am not convinced that he has done the right thing to revert to his Liberian citizenship. And Liberian reading the laws of the land, I think that is something that some lawyers I have heard from some quarters, they might be challenging him. It doesn't matter if the law says what is not done legally is not done at all. It doesn't matter if he has become president. But if he took on other nationality to revert, there's a process. And that process, if that process was not followed, I believe that that may be a hurdle for George Weah. And I think it's good one of the seditions on his platform. He probably will be in the position to tell us if this issue will not be a hindrance for George Weah to contest election. On the issue of Cummings and Walker, there are issues surrounding who may even go on the CPP ticket. I like what the brother said. These issues are before the administrative body, the National Election Commission, and it is well expected that the those who will run to the Supreme Court. I don't think anybody will run to the Supreme Court because I think that lawyers should be able to know whether going to the Supreme Court is a better chance or not. But knowing full well that Liberia want to get on good course and you need a very credible person, I would think, in my view, Jawan Gonglo and Alexander Cummings, these are credible persons so far that we can think may stand some better chance. Omer Barker has a credibility. He has lived by that. But I think in the context of having contested last election and lose the election, there are questionable issues, even as it is. I wouldn't think on his character as a person. I think he's a clean person. But in this age and time for Liberian to be looking for a leader, I think there's a better need that people will be looking up to someone who is elite, someone who is forceful, someone who can be compared to someone like Zelensky of Ukraine, who is fighting a very strong and unbelievable battle against one of the world's superpowers. So we want this age and time. We need someone who is elite, one who can, make decision, by themselves and not by being dictated to. And having said that, there are other issues we even raised here that make us to ask questions as to George Weah's own ability at this time to stand as president of Liberia and to contest 2023 election.
Mr. Ducle, 4 men running, as we know them. Of the 4, the 2 that will make it to the second round, who will win then?
Well, I would just speak to from the earlier what my brother Tude said. Liberians are very gifted in when it comes to making decisions. When they premeditate already who they are going to vote for. And one thing we should know is our politics in Liberia is not westernized. It's traditional. So Liberians have already made up their mind. Comes the second round, they will vote boycott. But one thing I want to say here tonight is we have 2 cases in court. One Cummings and ALP, and Belete Cummings, ALP, and UP. Now, CDC government has missed a lot of opportunities. Let's be very clear on that. There are a lot of opportunities that were missed, and they are still missing the opportunities. You have a president that does not have a vision, have not spoken to his people, does not speak on issues when they unfold. All the missed opportunities have gathered stress, frustration, and tense up Liberians that they are looking for new direction. If the court does not play politics with the issues in front of them, you are looking at a second round Weah and boycott. And who comes up victorious is boycott. Liberians have already made up their mind to vote. The playing field is clear. There's no doubt about it. Mr. Cummings is a good guy. Tawan is a good guy. But Liberians are not looking that direction right now. They are not.
All right.
So where we are is a defining movement for our politics in Liberia. And I hope the court can look at all necessary, things to put in place that we should have a clean, fair elections. And if not, we're going to see an uprising coming up very soon. Then we are looking at the scope of the 70s, the 80s, and what led to 1990.
Wow. All right, Mr. Douglas, thank you, gentlemen. This is when we begin the back and forth and trying to challenge your fellow panelists' thoughts, and let's do that. Mr. Tule, you heard Prince Sharif that it will be a one-round victory for the CDC. The last time we had one was 1997 during Charles Taylor time. That was an extraordinary election. The past 3 presidential election cycles we had, there was no one-round victory. Joshua could not even give us that one round when he was that popular.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe Mr. Sherry is telling the truth? The other piece I want you to comment on is that Waka is going to make it to the second round. I know the Unity Party has a history, 2005, 2011, and then 2017. Holding all things constant, if the Unity Party makes it again, will we not see a repeat in the second round when Waka fell short? Your take.
Okay. There's a lot here to compress in
please.
the short period of time that I have. But let me say this. Let me start from here.
Mm-hmm.
George Weah removed the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
The inevitability or the potential of his presidency hung over Liberia for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So we removed the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
We give it to him. And he has proven to be very inept. It's almost like he's working for Nathaniel McGill. And in terms of development, the thing is funny. People spend 6 hours in traffic getting from Tinkers Village and Doison and going to Moton Corner and Broadville, places like that. They spend 6 hours in traffic. Is it his doing? Not directly, but the fact of the matter is the fact that there are no conversation regarding these issues that are plaguing the lives of the people every day. Their temperature goes up and they repudiate you. They hate you as they stay in it. They curse your government. They curse you and they curse your government. So we know, apart from that, just the fact that there is no information dissemination. The difficulties that are going on in Liberia, the leader doesn't speak to any of them. They may not even be his doing, but there's no reassurances or there's no coming and saying, hey, we are in a rough patch, just like the pilot we are announcing the plane. When we go into turbulence, he will say, folks, we're about to go into turbulence. We will be in turbulence for another 15 minutes. I want you to all fasten your seatbelt and sit upright, and we hope to get through the turbulent period. He's not communicating. And leadership is not just about being in office. It's about leading, and you lead by showing the people the way to go. You take the step forward and say, let's go. They follow you. We have an absentee president who is basically distracted because he doesn't have the skill set to lead. It's not the reason why he runs. It's because he's afraid that every time he opens his mouth, he gaffes, and because of that, he feels that the people will laugh at him. But he forgets to know that most Liberians don't even speak good English, so he could even communicate with them at his level. The people just want to hear the leader, but he's not like that. Now, to the issue of Joseph Boakai, this is not United Party 2.0 in the sense the party has split. The Salif crowd went with Salif. In fact, most of them are already in George Weah's government. We know Mayor Bro, the Nathan Lai, there are a few of them hold top positions in Weah's government, and they are Nathan Lai rather. Some of them are still there, and they still hold these places of trust. Eugene Nagbe, even though he was from Weah, but then he went to them and he went back again. Sam what a guy named from transport. Sam Wulu, he's still there. So it's not a here nor there, but the reality here is this: we cannot divorce Joseph Boakai from the 12 years of Madasali's government. It's silly to come and say, oh no, he wasn't there. He was there. We all know he was there. But was he in the room? Most of the time, no. But we don't really care about that.
And before you conclude, may I interject here? We are hearing about a serious conflict. You speaking to the division in the Unity Party in the past, we understand that it stayed there and it may explode again. Don't you think that is a significant potential for Joseph Boakai to land short again?
No, No, because guess what? All these issues.
But then how he's going to do it, because we don't see him mending the fences, man. I said,
Yeah. The thing is this: there are some fences that can be mended because there are also agitators that are ensuring that these fences cannot be mended. Let me go on
so then
quickly
where
to
does
say
he
this.
get the extra numbers to
Yeah,
pull
the
through?
numbers is not with those are just leadership, little people, little squabbles in people. The people who are going to vote for, they're not registered Unity Party members. They are the
Okay.
people walking down the street. Let me go quickly and before I hand it
Yeah,
over.
please. You
This
have
is
30
what I
seconds.
wanted to say here.
Mhm.
Joseph Boakai is not going to be president for 12 years in Liberia. We're taking him as a stabilizing force, tackle corruption, establish confidence once more in government, create an avenue or atmosphere of transparency and honesty, and let the people see that the government, we're talking about servant leadership. We want a leader that will come to the people and that will let the people know that they are the bosses, and that's what Joseph Boakai is going to do. Forget about the age. Joe Biden is as old as Joseph Boakai. The thing about it is this: the
But
wisdom.
Joe Biden is more visible than Joseph Boakai, isn't it?
Yeah, because on Joe Biden, before he ran, he wasn't visible, bro. For the
Okay.
4 years, the other man was there, Joseph Biden, and nobody knew where he was. It's the same thing. Your
Okay.
visibility comes with the movement. Joseph Boakai is the
At
man of
least
the
he's the
movement.
head of the CPP, right? So why is he not visible?
Okay, and let me say something quickly to you before
Please,
I
we have
step
to
up.
get to the other
The last
panelists.
thing, sorry.
30 seconds.
Our main plan is this: we don't care about the machinations, the devious machinations of the government and Ability and Cummings. They don't. Let me tell you something: the ruling of NEC or the Supreme Court will not stop the candidacy of Joseph Boakai.
Thank
We
you.
are ready to go, even if we have to go as independents. We'll go as independent. Guess what? It will even help us, but we're not even going to talk about this now.
Thank you,
What we
Tony.
want to say is the servant leadership of Joseph Boakai, the moment of accountability and transparency in Liberia is
Thank you.
nigh.
Thank you. Mr. Sharif, your candidate, George Weah, humiliated Joseph Boakai the last election. You are saying one round, but I don't believe you. There's a possibility for a second round. Chances are that, according to Tule, it would be between Weah and Boakai again. Will Weah do it again, or will Joseph Boakai get the last laugh this time? Your turn. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Let me say this, and I think the audience are listening very well.
Gentlemen, if you're not speaking, mute
I begin,
yourself to avoid.
I begin my statement by telling us here that those that you've mentioned are people who are threat to our peace and our democracy. And I want to give you one example right here that was just displayed by a supporter of, one of these people. My brother Dukley talked about an uprising. These are some of the things that Liberians who are listening to us on this platform must take keen, especially when it comes to this particular discussion. The opposition have observed from all indications that before the ballot box, elections are over. So the plan that they have concocted is that let us disturb the peace so that at the end of the day, we can have something like an interim government. I listening to our Mr. Jensen, Councillor Jensen. He talked about the issue of President Weah nationality. I just want to, have a kind of flashback. This issue have been discussed, dealt with, and we are moving forward. We are in 2022 towards 2023. So the issue of President Weah nationality is not what we are discussing, even though he said this will be one of the sticky issue. But we have crossed that long since. When it comes to the victory of the CDC, look, the voters are not the people that we are looking at here. The voters are not the people that we say, oh, bring it up from here. You know why you're talking. The voters are not the people that will spend maybe the 2-3 hours on this particular show. The voters are the people that you see in Grenjide. The voters are the people that you see in Pele Village. The voters are the people that you see in Rivergy, in Grand Basso, etc., in our counties. And what these people are looking at, Mr. C and fellow panelists, not the thing that you're looking at. For example, my brother talked about the issue of governance, that President Weah cannot speak to his people, he cannot talk, and etc. I think that information is misleading, it is false. One thing people must understand here is giving people the opportunity to be able to exercise their responsibility in a given area. Somebody said President Weah is not talking. Is President Weah now the information minister of the Republic of Liberia? Why can't people understand that? Look, when you are giving a responsibility, you perform according to that responsibility. And this is one of the reasons why President Weah will give these people one-time victory. He understands the issue of governance as compared to all of these people that you are talking about. He gave people the responsibility to be able to perform in those areas. I know that there are times people want to play politics and say President Weah is not talking on this, he's not talking on that. But let us ask the question: is President Weah getting the work done? Do we want talk? For 12 good years, my brother, we're listening to some of the most eloquent individuals that we have in our nation. What did they produce for us? All that they produce is that in the Puebla, in the Puebla, in the Puebla. But
Mr.
we are
Sharif,
grateful that this president is able to communicate his idea in tangibles.
Mr.
I give you one
Sharif,
example. Yes, sir.
may I interject this
Yes,
so
sir.
you can complete your thoughts there? The issue of Mr. Cummings being in court, political observers think the CDC is using that to its advantage. We delay him in the court, we do everything to make him low ugly so that you can pick up some political dividend. Is that not true? Because we've seen
Uh,
Serena Seaforth doing what he does best.
it is going to be elementary on the part of anybody to think that this government we have to corner her political opponent to win victory. Let me say this: this particular case has given a new look to Liberia and to our governance system. It has sent out a picture, a positive picture of our democracy and the rule of law in Liberia. And this government has won bigly relative to this case. For the fact that you can see the opposition. Mr. Cummings was not taken to the court. He was not taken to the court by this government. This
Wouldn't it
government
be
has
a much better picture, Mr.
the
Sharif,
CDC.
if, hold on now, Mr. Sharif, wouldn't
Yes,
it
sir.
be a much better picture if the CDC understanding that that case, in some people's opinion, does not have, merits to throw it out and say, look, let everybody participate, given the history of this country. But now
My,
you are saying you're going to drag it on for
my brother
political gain?
here, let me say this. To
Mhm,
drag the CDC into this matter that is
mhm,
happening between oppositions, I think those that are listening, even those who are not sedition, will
mhm.
tell you that it is unfair. We have rule of law. This government, this president will never try to bend the rule or try to intrude in whatever that is happening. There
All
are
right.
three branches of government.
Mhm.
Certain members within the opposition feel aggrieved. So therefore, what do? As compared to yesterday when people felt aggrieved that they ran to the butchers, they decided that look, we will use the court process. We will use the legal process. This is an indication that yes, there are challenges in the legal process, but you can see that even the opposition are having trust and confidence in the legal process. So it is
But
the
Mr.
opposition.
Sherry,
Yes, sir.
I want you to put your political dressing aside. Clearly, you're going to benefit as a political party, isn't it?
My brother, let me tell you this. Liberians are benefiting from this process. And the reason for which Liberians are benefiting from the process is that the opposition can use the court. that every one of us condemn. Everybody here on this platform, oh, the court, Liberia is this, Liberia is that. But to see the opposition that criticize the very court, to run to the court. Look, President Weah and the CDC, look, has no fish to fry in this. And
All
whether
right.
they go to court or whether they go to Jupiter or which one the planet, the one round victory is clear, is resounding, is something that cannot be overlooked. It's very
Thank you,
clear.
Mr.
So
Sherry.
let us be, I'm coming, sir, to just learn with this because I will
Please.
intrude on so
Few
many occasions.
seconds. Mhm.
To just learn with this, my brother, the opposition must understand that the government of the Republic of Liberia has nothing to do with what is happening in their ranks and far. So to come
All right.
on this platform and for somebody to try to sugarcoat it, I think it would be unfair. And if you try to do that, you will lose your political base right on this platform.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Steve Bolle. Mr. Prince Sharif is denying the fact that the CDC is doing everything legally possible to uh, prosecute Mr. Cummings for political dividend. Do you agree with him that the CDC benefit nothing yet except for the Liberian people, and this is a matter that was taken to court by the very opposition, and that the CDC has no fish to fry in this oil that is boiling? Your take.
First of all, I want to digress just a little bit before I come to your question to
Okay.
address something Mr. Tule and I believe Maurice Ducle would regurgitate the same thing very soon when you call him on, such as Vice President Joseph Yuma Boakai, quote unquote, would fight corruption. Let me put this in context. It is impossible plus cannot for Vice President Joseph Yuma Boakai to muster any courage to fight anything such as corruption, as evidenced by Vice President Joseph Yuma Boakai has no history whatsoever of advocacy for anything that has to do with corruption or so forth. Yet he has a history of being silent, collecting his own share of the power, in his own words, quote unquote, squandering opportunities. So let's not leave these facts out because we want to put all on the table. Let's put on the table. I want to move to Prince Sharif, who thinks that this is a joke, or who feels that he can bring the CDC Sakimo talking points here. It's embarrassing and very problematic for us to be in the 21st century and still alive for Prince Sharif to want to lecture us on President George. We are leading with tangibles. Those are not facts. Those are not facts. Those are made up talking points from Sakimo Tree. Let me give Prince Sharif some facts here. President George Weah has been in power for about 5 years. He's yet to implement 10% of his own PAPD document that should, quote unquote, take the Liberian people out of poverty. I challenge you and the entire CDC to prove me wrong on this one. Secondly, I will have to agree with Prince Sharif that yes, President George Weah has some tangibles. And let me name some of the tangibles President George Weah has. They are as follow. President George Weah built himself condominiums right in the eyes of the Liberian people within 2 years of him being in power without accounting for how he got those monies, which is very troubling and problematic. Let me give you another tangible President George Weah is on that he's doing. Another tangible, since you want to know about tangibles. President George Weah so far appointed a bunch of questionable characters into different branches of government or institutions that are creating serious problems and making the country look very unstable. I'll give you one of them that he tried to appoint that, thank God that it didn't go through. Wambodiski. He pushed the agenda of Wambodiski. He knew Wambodiski record. He knows about Wambodiski. Not only that, he appointed Serena Cephas, who is currently in charge of the case. Serena Cephas' record is as reckless, as bad. But let me tell you why. Let me tell Prince Sharif why he appointed Serena Cephas. Serena Cephas, if you go back in record, was the same person, he and Akaras Gray and Thomas Fala, that plotted this whole coup against Kabina Jana because of the dissent in the past election 2017. He was the only justice at that time that had a dissenting opinion. Because of that, they plotted in removing Kabina Jana unconstitutionally, as evidenced by that even ECOWAS court has proven that it was unconstitutional and they should restore this man his rights and take him back to where he needs to be. So when you want to speak about tangibles, Then I will ask this question: if you say President George Weah is leading with tangibles, in this case, will that benefit the CDC-led government? Why is the CDC-led government exerting so much pressure on this particular case when you have cases that are still lingering over the corruption cases? They're still lingering. They're still in a judicial system that they have not even been touched. You have people like what is his name, Bill Thoroughly, them being exonerated by the LACC. You have what a young man named that they brought on, what his name, to take over after Wambodisky, what his name, Kano Barbala, with a huge history, a huge rap sheet of criminality. You bring these people in, and you say President George Weah is leading to President George Weah is leading, with tangibles. The biggest question I'm asking now is President George Weah addicted to criminality, because he seems to be appointing a bunch of criminals and crooks that are not good for the country, that are not even good for the image of the international community. More likely so, to conclude on this whole point I'm trying to make here is this. Few months back, we told President George Weah, please do not appoint Maxwell D. Kimia because he has rape allegation. This is going to be the man who will be the face of our country internationally. Guess what? President George Weah and the legislature connived. They refused to listen to us. They say we are we are opposition, we are enemy of the state, we hate the government, and they still appointed this man. Today, guess what? Liberia is stuck internationally. Liberia is disgraced, and Liberia, for the first time in our history, let it be on record, a diplomat has been asked by the United States government to leave our country. Go check our record. It has never happened before. And Prince want to lecture on here today about President leading with tangibilities. I'm very concerned about that.
Mr. Ducle. So, Mr. Bwaka, you believe going to win this thing. But at the same time, like Steve said earlier, the possibility of a court case against Mr. Bwaka to stop him, is that very much unlikely?
Well, Mr. C, I will answer your question, but let me just retrospect back to my brother Prince Sharif. I think Prince made a case very easy for the oppositions. You know, when you're laying out all those tangibles that he claimed that the CDC government did. Prince, you protest for 12 years when Madam Ellen was president, and giving her a better Liberia because you have all the solutions to the problems that were in the country to bring people off from poverty, building good health system, all that. Well, you're given the opportunity. Your first year in office, you squander the coffers of Liberia, 150 plus million. What are the tangibles that have been delivered? You said that President George Weah appointed people in various positions that he trusts. These guys that have been placed in these positions have not delivered anything substantial, lifting our Liberians, brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers out of poverty. 12 years, putting casting on your head. Up to now, we don't have any results. The only results that we have as they are miscalculation. Nobody is saying that Liberia cannot have a sport park. It's good to have, but is this the time? And just to touch back on what my brother Steve said, the president, what kind of president you are if you cannot speak to your people? With all the mysterious killing that is going on. 2 auditors found dead in a car. This president got in mind to go to his church on the pulpit, telling Liberians that they were having sex. 3 missing boys. More and more people killed. This president believed to himself he owes no explanation to the Liberian people. So, you know, when you say that, you just make the case for the opposition. All right? And when you talk about the court process, CDC is benefiting from this case. It's very simple, Mr. C. We can go back. Kabila Ghana took his case to the ECOWAS court. Made the case. The case was looked at, and he won in ECOWAS court. Has the government of Liberia acted appointed the order of
Really?
ECOWAS to reinstate Janet. Janet won the case. First Lady Nancy B. Dole took her case to the ECOWAS court again. Has the government restituted everything that she was owed? So this government is new. This government is very new for using the court system to their advantage, and they are going to play out. And when I talk about uprising, I'm not saying Liberians or political leaders are going to take to the bush to start war. What this government is doing, friends, the way and manner of which they are behaving, with the frustration and tension that is mounting in the country. You're afraid of protest? You're afraid of uprising when you give it to Ellen for 12 years? Liberians are going to stand up at some point.
All right.
Now, with the boycott issue,
Quickly.
Our Constitution says it, and it's very clean and clear. Boycott is going to run. Boycott is going to go second round if there is, and he's going to be victorious. That is what I can say to that, because the Constitution lays this out.
Even if it means he goes
Even if it means
independent,
he goes
because
independent.
Tule said that if there are any hurdles with United Party, he will go independent and
He will go independent. He will go independent and he will win. The Liberian people have, when the Liberian people were thirsty for a Messiah, and this Messiah was George Weah because he came from Gibraltar, and they felt that he was one of them, and they felt that he could deliver them. When they made up their mind, who could stop it? We ran all the dirty politics in the United States against Weah. The Liberian people's mind was made up that they were taking this guy who has love for country. But now Liberians are no more spectators in their own country. They have turned to bystanders. Foreigners have taken the rights of Liberians.
All right. Thank you. And Mr. Jensen, I'm going to come to you. I'm going to introduce a new question. If you care to comment a little bit.
Yeah.
Previous speakers said you can do so, but let me introduce the next question here quickly, which is, has Alexander Benedict Cummings case that is in court destroy his bid for the presidency, or will he resurrect and have a chance? Or this case against him has given President Weah a profound advantage? Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. And I will address the question in this way. And I will start with Prince Sherry Wright. I will start with him and agree with him that the case with the CPP case, indeed, George Weah, in my view, is not a party to that case. And I'm not sure that George Weah indeed is engineering that case. That case is as a result of greed, in my view, that these four political parties that came together to form a collaboration have had some personal issues with themselves as to who is to be the standard bearer of that collaboration. And because of that, that's the singular reason why they ran to the court. But let me say this, Bwaka, like someone said, I'm not an ANC member here, neither a UP or a partisan. So I speak freely and I speak on issues, and sometimes those issues will raise. It will take someone to think twice before you can address any of those issues. Now, the case about if Joseph Boakai is not careful, he may not contest 2023 election. If lawyers associating with Joseph Boakai do not do what they're supposed to do for themselves, he may not have an opportunity to contest 2023 election. What am I saying? Joseph Boakai and all other political parties entered into a collaboration. That collaboration, it was by will of each of these permanent sons and daughters of Liberia to collaborate. That collaboration is binding on all of them. And there's a free advice to the Unity Party, until the Unity Party can file a petition to amend or withdraw from the CPP before the National Election Commission, that document will bound all of them. And if they overlook what I'm saying here today,
But you're not listening, right? You didn't listen to everything we said.
If I'm done, you can come in. Except you want to interject, and I'll give you a chance to
Just
do that.
interjected.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I'm indeed listening and following political development in Liberia. And what I'm saying here, those of you who are advising some of these people, if you think it's just a mere conversation, be aware. But I say it again, until the Unity Party can withdraw, that is, file a petition with the National Election Commission and withdraw, she is bound by the CPP framework agreement. Now, let me address the issue that you people think the Supreme Court will address. There is no case, there is no constitutional issue that should go before the Supreme Court. What am I saying? The Constitution says it is a right of any Liberian group of persons to associate and disassociate. Now, the failure of most of you, political institutions and individuals or group, to understand what the Constitution says the right to associate and to disassociate, and to fail to understand that the statute has been created. The Association Law of Liberia is being created by what? The National Election Commission. So when it says you have the right to associate and disassociate, it does not give you any free will to walk away from an agreement that you have entered. The framework agreement is a legal instrument that bounds all of those people. Now, to associate, every one of you here know that before you associate, you need to know your mission statement, your goals, and purpose for which reason you are collaborating or associating. When you come to those points, then you draft an article of incorporation and file before the foreign ministry, and to get a legal document. In this case, a political party, you file a framework document with the National Election Commission. The National Election Commission is not a party. Now, I will say here for sure that any of you that think the ruling that came from the National Election Commission is just a mere joke, the National Election Commission, in my view, fell short to have told you guys that the right thing, you need to do it before you can be considered. If you fly to the Supreme Court is going to tell you, did you sign any framework document? You can't deny that. You will be talking about, there was some list or whatever taken and attached to the framework document and was filed. So there was some fraudulent mean. But the intent for you political parties to form a collaboration is in the mind of Joseph Boakai, Benedict Ure, Alexander Cummings, and Yomble, who I assume represent the Liberal Party. Those agreements, having you agree and file a petition before you have filed this document with the National Election Commission, is standing, is binding, is in the ruling that was before you. The National Election Commission has ruled already that this document bounds all of you guys. What the National Election Commission failed to address was that they told all of them that there's a constitutional issue that they didn't want to address. In my view as a lawyer, I feel that issue has been addressed. There is a statute that addresses the question of association.
James.
So having the statute address that matter, if you go before the Supreme Court, what is the question you're going to take before the Supreme Court?
James.
That I have a right to associate?
James.
And I have the right to withdraw?
Of course. It's an established right.
James,
it's not an established right in itself. Take this from me today. Take this from me. The right to associate is not a free will that you can walk away from a free will document.
Mr. Jason?
Yeah.
Mr. Jason, without going too much into the constitutionality of a contract that is signed and how it would be binding, let's focus more on the political side, compared to the legal side, right? What we are saying is that if, like you are believing, that if the case goes to the Supreme Court ruling will be against Boakai and he will not run. If that is to happen, and I'm giving you this now for you to learn so I can go to the other panelists here. If that were to happen, or should that happen in the future, who you think stands the best chance of winning?
Well, if the National Election Commission says the CPP is the collaboration that should feed a candidate, and Boakai has walked away, believing that he has a right to contest as an independent candidate.
Mhm.
I'm of the opinion that Bwaka going before National Election Commission as an independent candidate, he's going to be denied because there is an agreement with the National Election Commission that form these individuals into a political party and into a
But
collaboration.
isn't that clause is saying in the name of the party and not necessarily the individual? So will they step into?
There was an agreement that Bwaka signs, all of the leaders of the political party signed,
On
that
behalf of
bounds,
his party.
on behalf of his
On
party.
behalf
But
of his
who's the
party,
standard bearer of the party?
holding everything constant,
He is
assuming
the
without
face of the
debating.
party.
Anthony,
Hold on,
we are
James.
we ourselves are on the show too, bro. Can
Hold
you
on,
broaden
James.
this conversation?
I'll
Yeah,
get to
you've been
you.
talking for long. I've been quiet, right?
Yeah,
No, I
You
didn't
want to
talk for
give you a
long.
chance?
You,
Oh,
James, I want you
you've
to
spoken,
conclude here
you've
quickly.
spoken for more than 5 minutes now.
well, if
I didn't speak for
I
5
mean,
minutes.
I don't think you moderating. The moderator is right there. If you say I must stop, I listen
But
to
that's
him.
why I'm telling him that we are all on the show too.
Yeah,
So
gentlemen, let's be
can't just,
patient, please.
cause you to
Okay, I think there's
monopolize
a
the
sticker
time.
issue, and that's what we almost addressed. If you want to address it, I'll keep quiet. You address it.
Yeah, James.
Yeah.
So I'm saying to you that should that become the case, what would Waka running as independent? How would that stop that? Because the
I have
framework
told you,
document is saying that
and I'm
you
on the
cannot
record
run in
here.
the party name, but not necessarily in the candidate's
I
own
have
name.
told you here, and I'm on the record. The National Election Commission will deny Joseph Boakai if he filed as an independent candidate without withdrawing from the framework document that is with the National Election Commission.
Thank you.
Before I leave you, there is this issue of citizenship that I raised.
No, James,
And
I will not allow you to go to that because of time. You have exhausted your time, please. You said that earlier, and I'm not going to allow you, and I'm going to bring in Tule. Mr. Tule, and if you want to pick up anything else that probably you might have jotted down, you can so do, but I have to introduce this question here, which is significant to the discussion, right? And the question here is that, and James, you did not answer that question for some obvious reason because maybe other things were important to you. Has the Cummings trial destroyed his bid for president and resurrected President Weah's re-election prospects profoundly? Tule.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily, because if I go back, what Prince said earlier.
And please, gentlemen, let us observe the 2 minutes, so that my job can be
If
difficult.
I'll go back quickly on what Prince said earlier. Prince talked about people supporting the supporters of CDC being in line to support, but he failed to forget or to remember that not failed to forget, he failed to remember rather that the last, I think, 5 seats by election that were held, they did not win one. And there have been key senatorial races that they did not win also. Especially with the Darius Dillon election in Montserrado County, which was the main state. And Dillon got votes in places that we had were previously considered we are stronghold. And these places. And the reason why is because Dillon did not go, like a conversation I had with you today, Dillon did not go just responding or reacting to the allegations or the things that came out of the CDC. Dillon he enumerated his plans, the goal, the vision for a better Liberia, and people identify and they got drawn to that message, the message of hope, real hope. And then he talked about being the light. Now, so we don't want to indulge the fantasy of Prince and other seditions to believe that they are shoe in because they are the incumbency. It's a fallacy, and there is no need for us to continue to give that farcical line of reasoning any light. But the question that you asked, and I will go to that question, I said not necessarily, but the thing is this: Cummings is not as popular as his people want him to think. Most of the people making noise about Cummings are in the diaspora. If you went to the Atai shop or to the markets and you ask the random person walking on the street in Liberia, I'm telling you, Cummings will maybe draw 2 out of 10, or maybe 1 out of 10 if care is not taken. I have talked to people who have done their own random samplings, on scientific random samplings, and one of them is a key Cummings supporter. He called me in the middle of the night. And we went through everything. He said, brother, let me just tell you the truth. As much as I'm frustrated, I'll tell you, I've gone to the pawn shops, to the Thai centers across the city, and I can tell you from what my own sampling, the people, I don't care what you say, the people say, yeah, we hear you. You say Joseph Boca, oh, Joseph Boca, we're Ellen, and whatever, we hear you, but we're voting for Joseph Boca. That is the prevailing mindset across Liberia. I have my younger brother works. He manages a project for the EU, conservation project, and he goes around the country. And he calls me. He's not even into politics. Not like me. He's not into politics. He said, "My man, look, I've talked to people, even in government. People say they're just waiting for the election to come. They regret voting for this guy. They're waiting for the opportunity to cast their ballots for Joseph Boca. This is not for argument's sake, because we can argue back and forth here all day on as to who will win the elections, but we will see. And the thing is this: I said Cummings is not totally damaged. He's not, because Cummings is not. Don't put him to the place where you believe that he is the forerunner, or he's not even close to Joseph Boca and we are. That's just the reality. Cummings, we're talking about the most he can get will be 25% or 20%. The most he can get will be 20%. Let me be honest with you. The thing is this: is we are right now first round, no argument, because of incumbency. We will get the most votes. Next will be Joseph Boca. Two of them will go into the second round. And the reality here is the people are already fed up with we are. They have stood in repudiation of that regime, and they are going to vote them out. So going into second round, who first, who second, doesn't matter. What matters is who comes up on top after the second round. That is what matters. So don't even think, because the lack of plan and the institution of these plans, and the fact that you are reliant on recurring budgets, and you haven't even tackled corruption or the perception thereof, and the judiciary you're talking about that we need to rely on. They were just indicted heavily against the State Department report. The State Department say the judiciary is our weakest link, and they are very corrupt, and they have now stood up. They're now a co-equal form branch of government. They are surrogates of the executive. So as a result, we're not even looking for them. And Jensen, let me tell you the truth. Nobody can stop. I'm telling you today, take it from me. I can bet you $5,000 or even $10,000. Nobody in Liberia, you can hold that framework. That is the framework you're talking about. Is on a contestation in the courts about the validity of that documentation. It's on a contestation. NEC is ruling on a document that is on a contestation in the courts. NEC doesn't have independence, or NEC doesn't have credibility. So we're not even worried about NEC. As George, we are messing with NEC. We know. Bunch of ex-girlfriends on the board. We don't care about all of that. What we care about is this: the ability for Joseph Boca to register as an independent candidate in Liberia. Nobody can stop it, because if they try it, there won't be election in Liberia.
Thank you.
Just take it from me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Tule. Thank you for serving your 2 minutes. And Mr. Steve Bullet, this is for you. And you went almost 5 minutes too, James. So no quan there. Mr. Bullet, this is for you. Does Cummings, along with the ANC, possesses the ability to turn the Cummings trial into a positive political narrative that will benefit them, or this is a nail in the coffin for Cummings and the ANC?
Well, that's a good question for the Cummings folks and people who represent Mr. Cummings. I will speak from a broader perspective.
I just want your independent opinion on that.
Right.
What do you think? Do they have that ability to turn this thing around?
Well, I want to go back to one or two things here really quick within my 2 minutes, so that I don't exhaust them. So I'll come to your question, but just close it up here. First thing I wanted to point out is that I want to point out that I think that the whole court case issue, in my honest view, the CDC-led government or the current government has been a little lenient with this whole case government. The reason I'm saying this, and this will sound a little like it's controversial, but I want to be emphatically clear that CDC is lenient on this because by now the NEC, if the CPP claims that the government is the paperwork is not legitimate document, by now the NEC should be looking into revoking everyone that won on that document. Remember what Mr. Johnson said here, whether you like his assertions or not. What is not done right or legally is not done at all. So it needs to be looked into. That's another investigation. That means everybody who won on that document, because that means 4 people, 4 grown, mature men and a woman knowingly deceived the entire country. So that's a questionable thing, first of all, that we need to look into. I would urge the CDC-led government to look into that. To be very honest, and one tussle and one face the country, and George Weah is messing up, then let's look into it from a broader perspective. I mean, that's the first point I wanted to make. The other point I also wanted to make is this. I believe that based on the Constitution, based on the document that Joseph Yuma Boakai and the UP signed to be part of the CPP, and they left illegally, I believe if Joseph Boakai decides to run by himself based on the Constitution, he can run without running under the name of the Unity Party. But again, it comes back to name recognition. It comes back to people knowing people. If Joseph Yuma Boakai runs as an independent, is he able to pull out other Unity Party partisans to come and follow him? Where would the party be left? So that notion, that other path they want to tread on, that he will run as independent, good luck with that. Good luck with that. Another point I wanted to make also, as I go down my list here, is we also have to bear in mind that the next election, 2023, would not be about popularity, because popularity has failed us so much that the Liberian people are rather considering change over popularity. As evidenced by that, that's why Dara Zeno was not popular in Monrovia or in Monserrato, but he won. The first time he was not popular, he won. So you see, the paradigm has shifted. This narrative, George Weah spoiled a market of popularity. He was popular with gay in spoiling. Other people who been there, so-called popular, they did not do anything. Most recently, Senator Darius Dillon, who has been popular as well, seemed to have created some dent in this whole conversation of being popular. And then the last point I also wanted to make is we definitely have to keep in mind that this coming election will be about change and sustainability, not popularity. And then to your question, Mr. CA, that if the Cummings camp can turn this whole thing around to his benefit, yes, I think it's possible. But here's what I think needs to be done. There has to be a strong strategic team to change this narrative, to shift the paradigm. I'm not talking about a regular talking point. It cannot be done. It has to be strategically done and coordinated. I think the communication arm of the Mr. Cummings camp is very slow. I'm not talking about propaganda, because that's what Unity Party dwell on, and it's not going to work. All these innuendos and coming up and just making all kind of statements, making it seem like Joseph Boakai is supreme and he will win. No, it's not possible. I'm saying that it needs to be strategically coordinated with facts, with data that back the results that will be pulled out, so that people can buy into it and gravitate towards it. Not
Steve,
just what data?
Steve, if I may here before you, I want you to land on this. The ANC, from my observation, and I may be wrong, but this is my honest observation, has not shown any growth in their ability to communicate effectively outside of their own cycle. I'm not sure they are doing a much better job, outside of their cycle. Maybe they're doing well in their own cycle, and I think they are looking more within their cycle than they are looking outside of their cycle. You think they're able to see this that they don't see right now and make a change?
Well, before I answer your question, Mr. Tunde asked a question, what data? I'm speaking of the data of people's record, such as Joseph Yuma Boakai, everything in his entire life, his entire political record, and man you follow, everything that he's ever done has died. I'm saying it again, go check the record. Everything Joseph Yuma Boakai has ever led has died. Either it died naturally or it died just by his inability to lead.
That is a blanket statement. Give me a specific, please.
Well, I'll give you a specific. Let's go back to when he became, when he led the CPP. Most recently, what happened?
Oh.
No, you want the specifics? I give you one specific. Now, listen now.
The CPP was already dead.
That is not true.
That is not true. You see, these are
I
some
don't
of the
put in
myths.
here, bar. If you know
These
how
are some of the
I,
myths
I
that
can
you pass
invite you on
around
my
and
show
you
for you to
people.
come and talk your tabata because I think talking make no sense. The
Okay,
Civil
no,
War already
let
dead. It
Steve
was
land,
already
Tule.
dead. There was no agreement. There was
Mr.
no
Tule,
Let Steve
cohesion.
land, Tule,
Mr.
please.
Tule, Mr.
Let
Tule,
the man land, please.
Go ahead,
Mr. Tule.
then.
Before Joseph Yumabwaga assumed the CPP, the
It was dead.
CPP was moving.
It was
The
dead.
CPP, that's your, you see, that's an opinion, it's not a fact.
I think
But
I think we have a moderator here, Mr.
Please,
Tule.
Tule, please. Let's stop that. Go ahead, Steve. Please
yeah,
land.
but to your question, I would have to agree with you 100% that the ANC has adopted this mentality of the CDC where they feel comfortable in themselves and they think that's growth. As evidence of that, that's why 2 election cycles up to the point the third one, President George, where the CDC opened up to decide to emerge before they could win. So what has happened to the ANC is they're comfortable within themselves. I'll give you an example. I'll give you a typical example of the ANC. You will be on a show making points that are supposed to elevate Mr. Cummings and so forth. You know what ANC people will do? They will go have their own show as opposed to coming to support you. Or to even put on that show that you're having, talking some of the truth or the facts about Mr. Cummings. I don't see that with the Boyka people. The Boyka people, in as much that they're trying to sell Boyka as high as they can, anybody who is talking anything positive about Boyka, you know what to do? They invite one another, they share your show. They don't go and congregate. So in the same thing with CDC, why you see Prince Sherry saying that as though he's in a classroom and learning is because they've been stuck in this myopic mindset we're in. They got the CDC platform. When you invite, when they don't invite other people that who criticize the government. They don't. They don't invite other people who speak.
Prince Sharif said he can't invite me to his platform because I would desecrate
No, he will
his
not.
platform.
Because the mindset
No,
is they're
that
comfortable.
information is false.
Because the mindset is they're
Will you
comfortable
invite
with
him, man?
I always invite people.
let me
I'm
You
sorry
say
for
the man,
intruding.
Anthony.
Yeah.
Just
let me
always.
finish my point.
Steve, please land your point, gentlemen. Let's stop this. Start talking. Go ahead, Steve. Please land your point.
So you see, yes, the ANC people, and that's why they have not grown, especially from a communication standpoint. The message has not been effective and resonating because you know what? They seem stuck and they're too comfortable with themselves and among themselves. And that is absolutely wrong to the point that they become intolerant when you speak negative about Mr. Cummings. And this, I've always told people from the ANC, this is politics. This is not Christianity. This is not religion. People will castigate your candidate. People will hold your candidate accountable. It's up to you to take it, in good faith and welcome these same people and work with them. But being stuck in yourselves and congregating among yourselves and doing these things does not help and it will not change the narrative. So it's up to them what they want to do next.
Thank you. We now get to Mr. Prince Sharif. Mr. Sharif, let's hear you, please.
Yes, sir. This conversation is becoming interesting as we move along.
Right.
And I again just want to point something out here to the Liberian people that are listening. Like I said earlier, the last result of the opposition threatening the peace caused, a kind of chaos that Liberians will just, get their mind off what is right and continue to run. And we are seeing it here from our brother Tule and that of Dukle. They made it very clear. They were very clear. We'll cause trouble. We'll do this, we'll do that. I think people who are listening, our audience, are listening to us. My brother also made a very, very great point, Brother Dukle. He said, if I'm to quote him directly, he said, we ran a deadly political campaign against President Weah. But with all that, he was elected. Now, this is just an indication and a very clear one to tell you that the Liberian people are resolved relative to who they want to support. And there is no amount of negative propaganda coming from the end of the opposition can dissuade the mind of Liberian on the reality that they are looking at. When you're listening to my brother, you can deduce from Brother Tule and that of Brother Dukle that there is no agenda that they have right here to present to the Liberian people why they should be voting for a Cummings or an Ambassador Boyka. Nothing at all. Now, when you look at Mr. Cummings, you ask the question whether this thing is damaging Mr. Cummings, political career or whatever. Let me be very emphatic and clear here on this platform. Mr. Cummings destroyed himself. I am saying this. And this is why I'm telling you that Mr. Cummings destroyed himself. His involvement in the political arena of Liberia was the first destruction that he caused for himself. For Mr. Cummings to use his financial might, he bought a political party, which is the ANC. That alone was the first greatest mistake that he made in his life. Instead of, building up a political party, what he did, he bought one. And now we are seeing the result where just now they're about to change another, how you call chairman to another one. The second deadly mistake that Mr. Cummings made was to get himself involved with these people that over the period has been very, very distorted to our own democracy, joining themselves and thinking that they can be able to change their nomenclature, that Liberians, will look at it in a different way, going under the nomenclature of CPP. And we have asked Mr. Cummings, yes, I am a sedition and a very proud one, but again, we advise Mr. Cummings that Mr. Cummings, your association with these people is not very good. This marriage will cause you problem. Mr. Cummings did not listen. Again, he jumped into this particular marriage. Here is where we are. He is now in court. The third thing is Mr. Cummings' utterances towards, things that are happening. It's a clear indication that indeed he has been baptized by this same old political strategy that in order for you to gain relevance, 13 people. We saw when Mr. Cummings went to the court, what happened there? There were a group of ANC members. In fact, there were gangs that were organized by Mr. Cummings and his collaborators to go and threaten the very, very court to the extent that we saw police officers who were brutalized. You are a living witness, my brother C, and everyone that is here. We are all living witness. They were brutalized. Did Mr. Cummings, frown on that particular behavior? A man who said to us, you cannot keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result. Did Mr. Cummings, tell the Liberian people that no, this is not my character? No, he was very mute. And to just tell you this, my brother, when you're listening to what people are saying, they talk about the issue of corruption, like my brother said, the issue of corruption. I want to say on this platform, you talk about corruption. Now, perception as it relates to corruption is not the reality. I am going to turn my camera around and show you something. When people are discussing about corruption or they are discussing about governance and government, they are not discussing about the view of a Prince Sharif or the view of our brother, Tule, or brother Dukle, or brother Steve. We are talking about the facts. We are talking about data. And I will turn my camera around to show you something. The MCC report. My brother, look at this. I don't know if you can see this, but this is not my report. This is the MCC report. Look here. There's the MCC report. There's the MCC report. I'm sorry. It's like, my device here. Yeah. There's the MCC report on Liberia. There's the MCC report relative to, the fight of corruption in Liberia by this particular government. You are seeing it there. When you read the MCC report, when you look at the issue of control of corruption, the MCC report made it very clear that Liberia did exceptionally well in fighting the issue of corruption. When you look at democratic rights, Liberia did exceptionally well. You having the records. Now, these are facts that we can point to instead of opinions. I can come here and say,
Mr.
look,
Sharif,
yes,
Sharif, may I interject here quickly?
Yes, sir.
How do you square that MCC report in your own words, in which Liberia did exceptionally well,
Uh-huh.
with the likes of Mr. Smith, Representative Smith, Chris Smith, who said that President Weah is carrying on political corruption from the day he entered office? What's about Dana Banks, the representative that was sent to Liberia to represent Joe Biden? And of late, we heard about U.S. Uh, diplomat to the United Nations, all right, Thomas Greenfield, who is also a former ambassador to Liberia, and the current ambassador in Liberia. They have spoken extensively and rebuking publicly our government about corruption. We are also reminded of a letter that came from the 9 diplomatic heavyweights when the CDC took their money, and Eugene Nambwe said it was dig hole, cover hole, when Comrade 12 said it was borrowing initiative. How do you square those with the report you are celebrating and calling exceptional? It is not exceptional. It didn't say so. I read it.
Thank you, my
50%
brother.
is not exceptional,
When
my
you
friend.
when you look at the individuals that you call, like for example, the Congressman Chris Smith,
Mhm.
he is not the official spokesman of the
There we go
United
again.
States government. That
There
is
we
one.
go again.
Number two, look, see, it
Yes.
is not because you hear say, oh, the man are congressmen, so he does not have interest. Everybody you see up Capitol Hill there, they have their own interest. These people are also hustlers. They are people who are looking for it. So
He's trying to
don't
go for
think
A
that,
in Liberia.
my brother, I am telling you that most of these people are attached to what we call firms that lobby for other government. It is very clear that how these people make their money. It's a legal business here in the United States. But the good thing about it is that when you read the report, nowhere that in the letter of the Honorable Madam Banks talks about a CDC government corrupt. When you read that particular communication, she talked about the systemic corruption, the highly rooted corruption that has been in Liberia from the day of Joseph Jenkins Roberts. She talked about it. You read that communication. I read the communication. Every one of us, we read the communication. So to take that communication and ascribe it wholly and solely to the CDC government, I think somebody is now reading the report very
And
right.
so let
Now,
me
when you
add this
also,
there,
I'm
Mr.
coming, sir.
Sharif.
I'm coming, sir. When you also look at the delegates that went to Liberia from the Black Caucus, yes, they acknowledge that there are challenges, but they also hailed and commend the government for upholding the rule of law, for fighting corruption, for the kind of democratic atmosphere that they are seeing in Liberia. You saw it, we listening to it, every one of us listening to it. Now, these are people of voices when it comes to this particular government that is the United States government, as compared to
Will you
individuals who
consider,
are
Mr.
representing
Sharif,
their own interests.
Mr. Sharif, will you consider the GAC, the General Auditing Commission, a voice in the fight against corruption? Will you also consider the LACC as a voice in the fight against corruption? These two institutions have released reports about your government being involved into massive corruption.
Uh, my brother CA, to say that they have released report that this government is involved into massive corruption, I think you weren't reading that particular report clearly.
For example,
Something was happening somewhere.
the one on the $25 million was clear. The one also of late with the boss of the National Election Commission, the $82 million for thermometers.
And you
It's
see,
also clear.
this is where this government continue to score a very huge mark over the opposition and people who continue to criticize this government. Look, this government will do nothing to intrude in the rule of law. There are 3 branches of government.
All right.
There are 3 branches of government. Now, those that are, let's say, captured in those reports, what we see happening It is the first of its kind for this government to take a serious approach in making sure that she can take her own to
The
the court
National
to
Election
either be
Commission
exonerated
boss
or not.
is being
So,
indicted by the LACC. Your
uh,
government allows her to
To
sit
preside.
as head of the National Election Commission still.
uh,
Doesn't
let,
that ring a bell to you,
let
Sherry?
me tell you this, my brother
Mm-hmm.
C. The
Mm-hmm.
National Election Commission boss, as we speak, is before the court. It is the court that determines who is corrupt or who is not corrupt. Thank God
Are
we
you
have the
serious?
lawyer here.
What's about
And
what your
anyway, I'm
LACC
coming, sir. No,
said?
let's
Your
get this clear.
LACC found her
Let,
guilty
let's
of
get this clear.
wrongdoing.
Now,
Can we move
let's
All
get
on?
right.
this clear.
Yeah,
We
please
do
lay your
not
point
have
in
a
30
law.
seconds.
I'm coming, sir. We do not have
Yeah,
a
30
law
seconds. Mm-hmm.
that gave, as we speak, that's why this government is trying her best to make sure that this anti-graft institution are giving the full weight to be able to persecute people and to come down, with her own authority. And that's why you and I, we should continue to push this. As we speak, the president of the Republic of Liberia has submitted, a bill to the honorable house, to these lawmakers, so
Thank
that
you,
they
Steve.
can give these people. I'm coming, sir.
Thank
No,
you,
you
Mr.
will not
Sherry.
be too fair if you just cut me off like
What?
this. You
Mr.
will not
Sherry,
be
you
too
have
fair.
spoken about
Now,
4 minutes plus
no,
now.
no, sir. I'm coming to just lay on this. The
Please.
government have submitted a bill, the president, to give this anti-graft institution the authority to be able to exercise full dominance, over some of these cases. So that's where every one of us
So
should
the
be able to put
prosecutorial
this
power that you are
agenda.
talking
So
about, Sherry,
as we
hold on.
speak,
The
those who
prosecutorial power
are,
you're
I'm
talking
coming, let me just
about
lay with
has
this.
been given to the LACC. The
Uh,
LACC completed a preliminary investigation and forwarded to the desk of the president for dismissal. That
you,
dismissed this woman because of this. The president refused to act.
did I hear you saying preliminary investigation? I like that.
Nothing wrong with
Eh?
preliminary investigation.
Okay, fine. You said
It also
preliminary.
made
I'm
a
coming, sir.
recommendation to the president
So,
that
so
this
you
woman
said
should be
preliminary.
fired.
My brother, the people that are here, let's break the thing down in a simple way. Preliminary investigation. In the meantime, investigation. Eh? In the
That is
meantime,
investigation
investigation.
and
Let me tell
found
you
some
this. The
wrongdoing.
courts,
They
the
found a
courts in
serious
Liberia.
wrongdoing
I'm
and
coming, sir.
saying she should be set aside
Now,
while their case is being completed.
Preliminary doesn't mean in
The
the
president
meantime.
does not care about that.
let me say
Preliminary
this.
doesn't mean in the meantime.
Let me say this, my brother. Let me say this to you, Mr.
Please
C,
conclude. You have
and
30
every one of
seconds.
us that are here.
Please conclude.
We
30
have the
seconds.
court. We have the legal system in Liberia. If anybody accuses anybody on this platform of corruption, it is that particular body that is responsible to come down with a verdict. I am not trying to sugarcoat things. I am not trying to cover up anybody, whether
Thank
be
you.
it the national election boss or whoever boss. But what I'm saying is that we must have explicit confidence in our judiciary system. I think sometimes people
Mr.
try to,
Sharif, you have to
use
land
some
here. Hold on.
condescending comment
Prince,
on
Prince.
our judiciary system. But
Mr.
let me tell
Sharif.
you this before I land.
Mr.
Even
Sharif.
here in the
Mr.
United
Mr.
States,
Sharif,
Sherry,
the
you
point
line
I'm
here,
My
making.
man,
Hold on,
other
Prince.
people got to go
here,
to that.
Please.
here
Mr.
in the
Sharif.
United States,
Mr.
there,
Sharif.
yes, sir.
Please, you have to learn. We can't go back
Yeah,
and forth. My
you have to
point
lay on
is,
this.
listen up. My point is, the LACC had advised the president that Mr. President, fire this woman or suspend her because of this, and the president is yet to act. What do you make of
My,
that? 30
my
seconds.
brother, the president of the Republic of Liberia will not act based on the feelings of a CA or anybody.
No, it's not my
There
feeling.
are,
That is an audit
I'm coming,
report.
sir. I'm coming, sir. When you look at that particular report, it also recommends the prosecution, right? You
Thank
read
you.
that report, and I read it. It talks about prosecution. So, since it talks about prosecution, it means
So why
let us
can't
look
she
up
That
to the
step
court.
aside?
Let
Why
us
can't
look
she
up
be
to the court.
suspended? Why can't she be suspended? Why investigation
Uh,
continues?
My brother, we have the court. All I can say is
All
that
right,
let us
thank you.
trust
Okay.
the
Mr.
legal
Sharif,
process.
thank you, Mr. Sharif. It is about time. Let's get to Jason here.
Jason, have you spoken?
No, I haven't spoken yet, Mr. CA. I just,
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I need
Mr.
to
Dukle, go ahead. Let's get to Mr. Dukle here. Mr. Dukle, go ahead.
first of all, Prince, let me clap for you because each time you speak, you make the job easy for the opposition. Everything you're saying, Liberians don't care about that politics, that you are saying. Liberians are feeling the pinch. Liberians are going through difficulties. And let me clear the air when I said we campaign against George Weah, because the nightmare that is going on, that is what we were afraid of. With this guy not having ethics, not understanding ethics, and did not have leadership ability. Those are some of the things that we propagated against him hard. And he just proved us right. Now, for you to sit here, Prince, and tell us that everything that Steve Boley, Tule, Mr. CA, and Mr. Jensen all said about this government, the 25 million, the agriculture minister, the neck boss, everything you are telling us here is the government is right. In a sense that President Weah cannot hold anybody accountable. So those are some of the tangibles that he delivered to Liberia for the Liberian people to keep suffering. Deplorable healthcare, deplorable schools, only known for building community roads. Mr. Sherry, I think we should put the politics aside and talk about the suffering of the Liberian people. They need change. Inflation is skyrocketing. Liberians cannot have 3 square meals a day. But yet you have the likes of Koji, Twe, Miguel, and George enjoying the luxury of taxpayer money. What people do in poverty, killed mysteriously, and you have the audacity to sit here to want us to believe that what you are saying is right. I will put the politics aside and speak the truth. Everything we do in the interest of Mama Liberia. And if our standard bearers, our candidates are going wrong, we should speak to it. To answer your question on Mr. Cummings about the court, yes, the ruling on the court may have some fragmentation on Cummings. And what I say that is, if Cummings is not called on the document, the framework document, is going to be called on his legality as a Liberian, if he is, or an American citizen. And we all know that he's an American citizen. So there are serious fragmentation that is going to be caused on the Cummings in this court. Cummings came as this guy, agent of change. We cannot keep doing the same thing to get different result, right? But what Mr. Cummings did was to align himself with these so-called people that he's now claiming are criminals. If Mr. Cummings probably have went his way and have stood neutral, maybe we'll be talking a different story here, Mr. C.A. And I like what my brother Steve said. You know, Mr. Cummings killed his own legacy. Mr. Cummings thought that money could buy his way into the Liberian politics. Mr. Cummings lied.
Morris, if I may here, how in any way is Mr. Cummings to blame for this detrimental court case against his presidential bid? How is he to be blamed? He did not sue himself. Somebody sued him. They had a disagreement in the CPP, and in any political arrangement, there are always disagreements, right? But to have taken this matter to court to the point that it's harming Mr. Cummings, I don't think it's Mr. Cummings to be blamed here. Somebody may argue. What would be your take?
You know, let me say this. Whether Mr. Cummings to be blamed or not, but the fragmentation is going to have on Mr. Cummings, he has to blame himself. Aligning yourself with criminals, as you claim.
You mean criminal-led?
That's what he said. He said,
do you agree with him or not that the others are criminals?
I don't agree with him, but I'm quoting his own words. I'm quoting exactly what he said.
But do you believe there are criminals in the CPP?
I don't believe they are criminals. I don't believe they are criminals. That's number one. Number two, you know, Musa ability is not helping Cummings in any way, form, of action.
What do you make of Ability, a decent family man? Of course, right?
A decent family man indicted and found guilty by FIFA, or decent family man that the government has declared a criminal, owes the government so many millions of dollars, and now he's squandering his way around to see how much he can, how he can leave that hole. So
Don't
he's
you
not
think
getting.
Musa Ability collaboration with, Musa Ability's collaboration with Cummings, or Cummings collaboration or business political dealings with, Mr.
How can
Ability
you
is of
call
any
Mr.
plus to
Steven?
him?
How can you call people criminals and associate yourself with criminals? How?
Who are the criminal he has associated himself with? Are you talking about? I don't see one.
Mr. C, I'm not going, look, we're not sugarcoating. For me, I don't have for anything. Mr.
That's why I'm
Cummings
asking
called,
you the
Mr.
question. Who
Cummings
are
called
the
you a
criminals
criminal.
Cummings is associating himself with?
He called you a criminal, criminal. He called Boyka criminal. He called Yomdi Kanga. He called all of them criminals.
Really?
Oh yes, you can go back. The
He's
records are there.
associating with Musa Ability too. I'm not sure if Musa is a criminal, is he?
Musa is a criminal. Class 1 criminal, class A.
Political criminal or real criminal?
Politically, realistically, he's a criminal.
You don't have the facts, Dukle.
The facts are there.
You just want to be heard here.
No.
Musa has not been indicted in any code of law for him to be deemed a criminal but under our laws, isn't it?
Musa, FIFA found you guilty. FIFA
But he was indicted in Liberia.
But he is, and the fact that Musa knows.
Okay.
Musa knows that he needs to be clear. Musa knows that he needs a stable life, so he do the bidding for the government, right? We all know that. This whole Cummings thing, Musa is not going to carry Cummings anywhere. He's going to dump Cummings at the end of the day.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. And gentlemen, this will be the final question for the day. And Mr. Jason, we've seen a lot of things going on. On one hand, the CDC government has been rattled by corruption, bad news, tough economic situation in the country. Liberians are not happy economically. Things are just tough. So it makes it difficult to think. I mean, I'm not saying that will happen, but it makes it difficult for Liberian people to overwhelmingly vote President. We are given the kind of condition they found themselves in, right? And then the CPP that was trying to position itself now got into trouble, and now we are where we are. They are in court. They are at NEG. I mean, those two places are like their new headquarters. This is a serious matter. These are serious issues that are happening. Does it mean that Tiawon Gonglo, there is a window of opportunity opening for him, and Liberians must start to look at him? And do you see the ability in him for him to capitalize on that window of opportunity that is happening? Because WIA is damaged, CPP is damaged. Liberians might be looking somewhere. Can it be Gonglo, and can he take it?
Let me say this, and please give me an opportunity to probably make my last comments here.
Please.
There are a few facts from all of what is going on in Liberia. And appearing on program like this, my statement may not be one of those popular statements, but I can say for fact that the CPP has endangered her own opportunity to become president of Liberia. And how to do that, they have to go back to the drawing board. And if they think that criticizing the Cummings, the Barkai, other political parties within their own arrangement is going to help any of them, it's not going to help them. And saying that Gonglo, indeed, he's a fighter. Gonglo has all of the pedigree, but indeed, Gonglo will have to work extra hard if he will make any significance in the upcoming election. He's a fine candidate, and I think all that needs to be done is working out the modalities as to how he can impact his own campaign. Relative to George Weah, we all agree that Weah has not performed to most Liberians' expectation. And I think that goes to say the rule of law, for example. And I always point out issues that many persons wouldn't think about, like George Weah dismissed one presidential appointee just recently, I think Briswell, right? And Briswell is a deputy director general. Or Weah allows another presidential appointee to dismiss another presidential appointee. Under the Constitution of Liberia, it's only the president that has the power to appoint and to remove, and no one else. He cannot delegate that responsibility. That's just a short statement into that. Those are some of the reasons why we think the rule of law must be respected in all cases. All right. And for the purposes of the case in court, if you just permit me, let me read the paragraph that closes most of the issues that I want to convince my brother Tule here. It says, one of the paragraph in the ruling of the decision came from the National Election Commission. It says this hearing notes that in keeping with the practice and procedure here at the National Election Commission, when a party submits a notarized instrument, such as a governing document, to the National Election Commission, the presumption here is that the same is valid and remains as such until successful challenged in keeping with due process of law or via amendment by the parties. Okay, by the parties. So in this, I wouldn't read all of that, but this is an emphasis. And I think those who have ears, they need to listen very well. And I've said it here, and it's not about sugarcoating anything or pleasing anybody here. The law in Liberia, when you enter an agreement, to undo that, there are procedural steps that need to be followed. If Walker ignores that, it's going to affect him very seriously. I want to be on record here. You can keep this tip, and those who think that they can tell Walker he can play it around it. If Walker goes as independent candidate, he will be denied as a result of this if he doesn't do what is right.
Based on your word?
Not my word, on the law.
What law?
The Constitution and the statute creating National Election Commission.
Please give the gentleman a chance. Let him make a point, gentlemen.
Based on the statute and the Constitution of Liberia. And I've said it here. The Constitution says to associate is not a word in itself. You have a right, you have a right to associate. But when you enter any association, when you enter any agreement, it's bounding on you. That's what I've said here. And it's not about pleasing anybody.
This is issues.
And James, what's about the question I asked?
About
given all that going on.
But I have said it in summary, all that is going on. The solution here, the CPP, if they mean well, they can still go back to the drawing board.
What's about Tiawan?
The Liberian people, listen, the Liberian people.
What make you think the Liberian people can't think about Tiawan Gonglo? The CDC government.
That's what I said. Tiawan Gonglo has
suffering the people. CDC CPP has disintegrated. Why not Tiawan Gonglo? Why do we have to trust the CPP folks again? They will do the same thing again.
When you are discussing or making analysis of issues, when you are discussing and making analysis of issues in this matter, you have the facts laid before us. And I've said, I hear Tule calling me or ANC member. I don't mind for that. But the issue here, Tule,
James,
the issue here is that the CPP has a framework document. We cannot discuss them and cannot propose a way forward for them. All right? The likely or not is up to them. For the Gonglo is a fine candidate. I've said that. He said a better chance. But we look at the Liberian society. Is the Liberian society going to say, okay, if Gonglo is the cleanest person, we take him? Gonglo will have to work extra hard. I'm not going to sit there and sugarcoat and say Gonglo is going to have a free ride. He needs to work extra hard.
Thank you.
All right? For the Weah has several challenges.
Thank you.
And he will only have a better challenge if you had a CPP holding. But for the CPP to be in fragmentation and think that Walker can win election or Cummings can win election, they're all just going to be wasting their time and they will pave a way for George Weah.
Thank you.
Except Weah is challenged in a very serious fashion before they can have any way forward.
Thank you. That because of time, gentlemen, we're going to do two things to get out of here. Mr. Tule, that is the tier 1 factor. I want you to speak to that. Given all that happening, the CDC and the CPP, is there any window for tier 1 here? And then the closing question, I want to put it in there because of time. I don't want to go above 2 hours. Closing question here is for Weah. Waka, Cummings, or Tier 1 to win, what must happen? And who chances are best among the rest? That would
Let
be
me say this to you. I've said it in my opening. I said the Liberian electorate, they are set in their mindset. So Tier 1 doesn't have a chance in hell of being president of the Republic of Liberia. Is he a good candidate? Is he a good person? Is he an upstanding guy? Does he have scruples? Is he credible? All those things I would give to the guy. The guy is progressive. He has good ideas and everything. But guess what? The people don't know Tier 1. They're not going to vote for him. I'm saying this thing today. Anybody wants to put money down, let's bet today. And I will come to your house to collect my money. Don't think I will leave for now until you call police. Even if you call police, you still get my money. I'm telling you today. Don't waste your time. I'm not saying Tier 1 is not a good guy. I'm not saying Cummings is not a good guy. Cummings he's a good man, but his desperation for power caused him to make go into alliances with people of questionable character.
Why do people always say Cummings is desperate? I think Cummings is doing what Waka is doing. They all want to be president.
Anybody who allow Musa ability. Take for example.
So whoever does not have Musa ability is not desperate.
No. What I'm saying is, it's not just having Musa ability, but for you to allow Musa ability to
what has shown desperation?
The things they are doing. Like for instance, if you and I came into an agreement, okay, that clause in the agreement that says that none of them can leave the CPP and contest on the. I don't know if I believe the fingering that I talk about was that clause was placed in when everybody was not paying attention, because that clause doesn't just make sense, but also again that clause is against the constitutional provision. And so it becomes a matter for the Supreme Court, not for James Jensen
to working of the entire CPP. So
how do you undo that? How do you undo what you say is illegal or is wrong? How do you undo it?
We go to the Supreme Court, and the
Supreme Court
Court
going to undo it?
Hold on now, hold on,
Brother James. Hold on. Let
me answer you. Or you want to our way when you thought the outcome?
Yeah, I mean,
the issue will go to the Supreme
Court. Please go ahead.
NEC said they didn't have the constitutional or authority to decide the issue. So why did they even rule? They're supposed to say we cannot rule on this issue until the Supreme Court rules, because that issue is an issue of precedence. James, something you're talking flippantly like that.
The Supreme Court, the Election Commission ruling is
protected.
Listen,
James, protected. We are about
to have never had a case like this in the history of Liberia. The Supreme Court ruling on this case will be establishing judicial precedence. My point to you is this issue, everywhere in the world, even in Canada here, when governments are formed, there are coalition to form government because they don't have, individual parties don't have the requisite amount of votes or MPs to form a government, so they form coalition with other people. When they disagree, the coalition breaks, a vote of no confidence is held for the prime minister. If he's re-elected, then fine. He has the right to form a government, go and ask other people to come and join him based on his ideology. Let me say this to you, Jensen. It is not a matter of must that it's not a matter of must that Joseph Boakai remain in an arrangement that is fraught with confusion and name calling and all kinds of.
Nobody is saying that, but he has a right to withdraw. Now, serious steps.
He left. It's not the time to interrupt. We are closing.
The man left.
But he can't.
The man has left.
How?
You're still going after his candidacy. Not only his candidacy, the government went against one person from Lofa County. The people they were already angry.
Another discussion, please.
I'm just saying something here. What I'm saying is this: whether you people try to say that, even if the Supreme Court, which is under we are storm, decide to say that the CPP arrangement is binding, nothing stops, nothing, Jensen stopped the independent candidacy of Joseph Yuma Boakai. You can keep, in fact, you can even go and take the whole Unity Party headquarters and keep it. You know what will happen? The fact of the matter is the ideology, is the change, is the renaissance, the rebirth that Joseph Boakai represents that will cause people to vote for him.
Thank
And
you.
they're not being distracted with Kumi. Kumi is a political neophyte,
Thank
and,
you,
and
Tule.
he has
Time.
questionable sense of judgment.
Thank you.
So
Time.
okay, bro.
Thank you, Tule. I appreciate your understanding, brother. We have to leave it there. Steve Bole, your closing. I think we had a great discussion here.
So I know I left for a second to do something. Can you just the last question? Can you just go over it so I make sure I
No,
got
just
it?
give you a closing, Steve, because of time. I think we had a great discussion already. Give you a closing.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you to focus on Liberia to the panelists. Um, I think and I believe that the best options for Liberia would be Alexander Cummings or Tiawan Gonglo, whether it's Josh Weah, whether it's Joseph Yuma Boakai, whether it's Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, whether it's Joy Howard Taylor. Go check the record. For the past 15 years, they've ran the country and they've ran the country into what we have today. All of them are part and parcel of this whole loss we got in this whole trouble. Joseph Yuma Boakai not coming back to save anybody. Nobody shouldn't even think about it. It makes no sense. So his scam, they can push that narrative. That's fine. It's their rights. But we have to be realistic and facing the fact. Considering after George Weah leaves power, the huge economic problems that we have, the huge social divide or social problems that we have on our hands, we need somebody like Mr. Johnson said earlier on that is rejuvenated with energy, somebody that understands the issue, that know how to move this, that know how to move this thing, that know how to negotiate both from a local and an international standpoint. We're not going to be stuck. We're not going to be stagnated or kept down. We want to move Liberia forward. Then let's do the right thing. This is not time to do sympathy politics. This is not time to do popularity politics. Let's talk about the facts and people that can get a job done. And so far, Jawan Gonglo, Alexander Cummings, they are the better and the best choices for Liberia. The rest of the people, you'll be going back into the same cycles. Thank you, and we look forward to Liberia having the best president going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Mr. Sharif, your closing.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks to the
But
panelists
before
here.
you continue, do we have a deal that I'm going to be invited on your platform as guest
Yeah,
to
we'll talk
dive into
behind
the
the scene.
issues?
Yeah, we'll talk behind the scene. In fact, the
He
the,
will never
the
do it.
entire no, why not?
Your closing,
But
please.
anyway, yeah, but anyway, here is it. I listening to you know my brother Dukle, and I listening to our brother Tule, and also our brother Steve. When you listening to the discussion, see,
Mm.
it's an indication that the opposition are confused. They don't have an agenda. They do not have a message that they can be able to put forth that the Liberian people can look at and say, yes, we can consider these people. Just from right on this platform, you can see it. Now, when you look at this government, my brother see it, the tangible of this government is very clear to the extent that your 3 years old son can adequately lay out the agenda of this government in a practical term. For example, this government talks about road. Let us look at the roads that have been built under this government that is faced with these harsh economic times. We do not have the opportunity of getting 16 billion. But with the meager resources and the collection of revenues from our mothers in the market, from the pen boys, today we can point to these things. Even though my brother Dukle is saying that, oh, they kind of small role, but at least we are grateful that first time in the history of Liberia, we have a road that is passing through a Edo community. At least for the first time in the history of Liberia, the Logatuo Ganta Road is paved. For the first time in the history of Liberia, we will have a double lane from the ELWA junction going all the way to the RIA. For the first time in the history of the Republic of Liberia, that we have a government that can say, look, You and I, let's disagree, but we must not use our muscles to be able to suppress the press. To the extent that today, my brother, through the magnanimity and the democratic respect for the rule of law, that today you have a platform, that today we can disagree and agree. For the first time in the history of Liberia, that today my brother Steve Bole is also discussing the issue of Liberia, that we can disagree is a privilege, and it is an indication that this government is making frantic effort in
All right.
giving Liberians the opportunity to speak on issue, whether you are in the north, the south, the east, or the west.
For the
First time
first
in the
time.
history for a very long time, we have a government that do not have any political prisoner. We know of what happened to Simon Freeman. I don't want to go there. The facts are there. When
Thank you,
I
Steve.
speak with facts. Nowhere in this government that we have any political prisoner. Even the United States that you're talking about, all of the reports that have
Thank
been
you,
given,
Prince.
they commended this government for some of these things. So all we can say is that we as Liberians need to keep focus and to continue to support this government for the next 12 years, that we
Please,
can
please
see
let other people
tangible
talk
Thank,
as
back.
we are seeing.
thank you so very much, Mr. Sherry, for your closing. That will bring us to Mr. Duclay for his closing.
Mr. CA, thank you. And let me say thank you to my wonderful brothers here tonight. You see, Prince, when you talk about all those things again, I remind you that you are just campaigning for the opposition, because at the end of the day, everything you lay out, everything you said has no substance. The roads you talk about are roads that was built, and some that was unfinished by the alien-led government that this president finished up. And you see, when it comes to the boycott, Cummings, Taiwan issues, I would say this. Again, the Liberian people are resolved, Mr. CA, whether we like it or not. When CDC knows that they are in problem, they cannot face in a boycott because they know the magnitude of boycott. They come with all kinds of rubbish. The age factors come in.
Mhm.
They play the race card.
Mm.
Race card?
Tribal
Okay.
card.
But let's stick to the fact that Ambassador Boyka has shown leadership. He's very substantive. He's ready to lead and take us out of this mess that we are in. Whether the Constitution says this, whether NEC says this, by the end of the day, the Constitution is the law of the land, and we are going to come out, and Boyka is going to run, and we will be victorious. The Liberian people are facing serious problems. They are tired of hearing rhetorics. Liberia is needing leadership right now. We tired hearing that Tabata talk from we are dig hole, cover hole. 16 billion went missing, 25 million went missing. Up to now, no accountability. People children are getting murdered. Mysteriously, people are dying. Deplorable healthcare system. RIA, complete darkness. And all Prince want to show you is community roles. Look, we need leadership. And Boyka is that person to bring that leadership. And I don't see no man born of a woman to stand in front of this freight train
Mm-hmm.
that is riding all the way to victory.
Thank you. And Mr. Jason, your closing, please.
My closing is that until the CPP, realizes that she has an opportunity and she should not misuse the opportunity by criticizing the Borkai, the Cummings. They are not doing well for themselves. They are paving the way for George Weah. Gonglo, at the end of the day, he will have to understand his ground and campaign very seriously. Gonglo is a better candidate, but he has to work the extra hard to get the numbers that he may need to win even the first round of election. I said it, and let me repeat again. that there are other variables that may come into play before the general elections, and that and those some of those variables may hurt George Weah in a very serious way. I made mention of some of it, and you may not understand it, but as time goes on, you might see some of the variables coming. And if some of the variables come into the picture, then there will be a new political dimension that people will see and say, well, we have to take a different route. In that instance, you may be seeing either Cummings and Gonglo playing the card. The American government has spoken. And on the issue of corruption, there is no if and end. They have told you that, hey, corruption is a robbery. And until Liberians fight for themselves, they cannot get a country on a better course. Taking all of these things into consideration, George Weah has a challenge. Can George Weah sit with an American president to discuss the issue confronting Liberia? I don't see it. And probably the ordinary person will not know it. But in this age and time, where technology and fight-sightedness, you need people. And Liberia has individuals who can do those things that, will help them to move on a global stage. It's not just about thinking that Liberia, okay, we can remain in our own little corner, we'll do our own thing. And these are the factors that George Weah, we believe, may work against him. But howbeit, until the CPP can realize that, hey, we have to sacrifice and do what we need to do most for ourselves. Brockett cannot go alone and win an election. Cummings will find it very challenging to also do that. So what is wrong with these people? I think people like the Tule or the Dougle, if they were advising these people, if they have any link with them in the rightful way.
You?
No, I'm talking about you now. If you have a very good way as to how you can bring these people together rather than sitting on public platform and criticizing and think that's the best way to go, that's a challenge. And until those of you who are, wanting to be the advisors of these people or are advisors of these people can realize that the collaboration is a framework, you're just going to be misleading these people, and there may be just a day that will just come against you people at the end of the day. So Brockett, Cummings, the Liberty Party, and the URE, they all have a part to play. They all have their followers. Why don't you tap into the collective effort that you started?
Thank you.
If you did that, then of course you have been standing a good chance to think about, okay, you're going to go again Weah and win him.
Mr. Jensen,
but if it remains this way, you have a challenge.
Come on and say, Mr. Jensen, before.
Thank you, gentlemen. And again, I can't thank you enough for coming. I think we had a very, very civil discussion. And having listened to you all, I think you all articulated the issue substantively to the best of your ability. And I, as a Liberian, I'm proud of you all that you represented our people in a civil and responsible discussion. This is my take, and that will close us. It is a democracy. The people get to decide. Even in our organic law, it is clear. All power is inherent in the people. All power is inherent in the people. All free governments are instituted by the authority and for their benefit, and they have the right to alter and reform the same when their safety and happiness so required. In order to ensure democratic government will respond to the wishes of the governed, the people shall have the right at such period and in such manner as provided for under the Constitution to cause their public servant to leave office and to fill vacancies by regular elections. And so comes election. So come the election, and the people will be deciding. Tule will not be deciding. Sherry, with all his sedition eloquence from the Sycamore tree, apparently he drank some Sycamore juice, he will not be making a choice. It will be the Liberian people. And he said it right. People in Bokondre will be voting. Are they happy? Why the man there goes? Some people passed through the airport, it was dark. Are they happy? That unhappiness may make them to decide who becomes Liberia's next president. And for these men who are running, they are at the mercy of the people because they have the power. Like the Constitution said, all power is inherent in the people, and they will make a decision. If they are happy where we are, they will vote him no matter what we all say and do. If they are not happy where we are, they will vote him out. If their choice will be Bwaka, or he will be president if he's on the ballot. If their choice will be Cummings, he will be on the ballot no matter what we all say, that he's nobody, he's incode, he's nothing, he's unknown. If it is tier one who is to be their choice, he will so be. That is how it works. The people decide, and the Constitution could not be so eloquent that all power is inherent in the people. So you surrogates, tell your Bwaka, tell your Wea, tell your Cummings, tell your tier one to go to the people and tell them that they can do a better job. Only when they do and do so effectively, and when the people see them for what they say to be true, then they will make that decision and they will be at the executive action. Until then, all you say here will be nothing but tabata. In my Southeastern language, I will leave it like that. Thank you for coming. The song says we are all Liberians, and that song will take us home. Gentlemen, again, I'm grateful for coming, for you coming and making it happen. Bye-bye, folks.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.